Yeah. All right. Welcome back, man. Another episode of Nothing Moves Without Us, a Black Culture podcast. What's up? What's up, man?
Good, bro. Going through as we previously talked about. I'm going through some holiday blues. So
Right, right,
a lot
right.
of lot of
So I
indie.
feel we'll kick off the conversation with that. Today's episode we'll be reviewing Midnight Marauders, 1993 album by Tribe Called Quest, which you suggested. So definitely interested in just getting your perspective and the reason behind why you wanted to focus on this album. But let's talk about the blues, man. Let's talk about these holiday blues.
Yeah, well, I'm just I would say 11 months out of the year, I'm very very focused and in tune and grinding. As you know, I'm a nonstop grinder and hustler and getting stuff done. And I don't know, man. These last couple of weeks, there's just a lot that's been happening. Personally, my family and professionally, I'm just kind of out of it. Um, and it's creating, I feel like it's like a ripple effect. So I know it's something that
Right,
we all go through at times. And sometimes you just got to take a step back and recalibrate. But man, it's a struggle, bro, going through it.
right. So, just thinking about the last episode, we talked about the holiday songs and tradition and being with family and just that overall energy. So it's always like to me it's weird to we have this content, we can look back, we can see like how the energy we were talking about everything, it was upbeat, and then like we come back the next episode and it's just like yeah, it's it's just this things don't feel right, and I kind of I chimed in saying like it's I feel like it's overall general feeling, right? Like feel the feeling of like not being creative, and I mean for especially like for you, I think for us, like we are creatives. We spent this entire year doing all different type of work. We launched this podcast. You won an Emmy, right? You have multiple projects going through your connection, the Connection Collective project, and it's like at the end of the year, after all the work you've done, like the it all just kind of leads to like a funk instead of being excited about the possibilities for next year. So it's always a weird perspective, like thinking about the full scope of it.
Yeah, I think, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that we're human. We go through,
Right.
we have human emotion, we go through real life things. And, I try to be superhuman. Uh, or let me rephrase, I don't try. I just kind of live this lifestyle where I'm going 100 miles a minute. But sometimes it hits you like a ton of bricks. And I'm definitely in that space where I'm having some challenges. So, but it's due to, brotherhood and friendships similar to ours where, we have conversations and you let me know what you're seeing. And, I encourage anyone out there who's listening to this or who's going through it, lean on your community, lean on your tribe, pun intended.
Right,
Because you
right, right,
just,
right.
sometimes,
I like that. Good wordplay. I like that. I like
well,
that.
because I get, I wouldn't say yelled at, but friends of mine, including yourself, pull me in and be like, "Yo, I got you, man. Just ask, or if you need to talk, just hit me up, or you need somebody to listen. I got you." And I'm not always the one to open up and share what's going on with me. So, I greatly appreciate that, and really, really blessed to have people like yourself in my life to be like, "Yo, bro, if you need something, let me know, and if you can't do something, let me know, and let's figure it out. We know we all go through shit, so."
Right, right, right. I mean, that's the challenge, right? And coming from you, it's coming from you, it's interesting because your like you said, connection is your currency, right? You're all about connection and creating a community, but there's still a part of you that's just reserved. And like I get it, like because it's the for me, and I say my space, I want to build a community. I'm still trying to figure out how to build and grow a community that caters to like this is like my beliefs, my philosophies, and my mission, but so much of my life prior to like being a creative, just being reserved and alone. So like when we talked before, I said, you know, this funk for you is like 1% of your year. 99% of your year was success and doing everything you needed to do, and this 1% is like the funk. It's just one rare offshoot moment. But like on the flip side, the majority of life has been just being reserved and doing everything on our own because that's just the conditioning, right? You know, being a man, being a black man, feeling like you don't have, feel like you don't need to depend on people, feeling like you want to do everything, and then the work as a creative is trying to break free from those limits and perspectives and just I guess be more open or I use the word vulnerable lightly, but just making the effort to accept that the creative aspect is for you to be able to lean on people and you to be there for people and for people to be there for you. I think that's just like the ever present challenge of like shaking old skin and old perspective. And I think it's good to kind of close out the year with that, right? Like I was telling you, maybe you just need a break, right? Like today, I was like, you know what, I want to take today off. Usually, in the past, I used to take Wednesdays off, but I haven't. I've been working. It's like, you know, I just want to chill and do nothing for a little bit. Uh, and it might be a good time to kind of transition into that. It might be a good time to kind of pause and reflect and like you were saying, you know, figure out what next year needs to be for you.
Yeah, you're spot on with that, bro. I have nothing more to add other than which that is oxymoron, right? Uh, other than that, I feel like a lot of this actually ties into the album we're going to jump into today, because I think about the creative mindset of artists and musicians and even filmmakers and so on, and how they put in this work. But back in those times, what did that process look like? Every day wasn't perfect. It could have been a project that took years and years to develop and work on, and it
Right,
ended up being a masterpiece. And when they look back at it, they're like, "Man, if only you knew what I was going through and I had to
right, right,
put
right,
this
right, right,
together."
right,
So
right.
I try to keep that open mind, and that's why us having these conversations and recording these episodes are the highlights of my weeks, because it reminds me and makes me think of what those people were doing back in those times when they were being creative and when they were developing whatever it is that their medium is. So yeah,
I guess the only thing I want to add, like thinking about what you said, thinking about what people were doing and the effort, like you know, the purpose of the podcast also, right, is you might have missed something, right? You know, we were alive. I've been alive 36 years. I know I missed something in the 80s. I missed stuff in the 90s. But now is the time with streaming platforms, with the internet. Now's the time to kind of give people their props. So I don't know. Did you ever listen to Video Music Box or watch Video Music Box growing
yeah,
up?
absolutely.
Yeah, so like there's a document. Nas produced a documentary
Yeah,
on
I've
it.
seen.
Ralph McDaniels, and that was the first thing that came to my mind when you were talking about not knowing what people are going through. I haven't watched it yet, and I'm hoping to watch it with like the next 2 weeks, and hopefully, you know, we can just do like a quick recap about it. But that was the first thing that came to my mind, like thinking about Ralph McDaniels and Video Music Box. You know, late night Saturday night at like 10, 11, and it wasn't like it wasn't huge. It wasn't like was it like Tigger the Basement
Yeah,
on BET? But I think if you grew up in New York in during that time, the Video Music Box had a special connection to you. So now being older, it's dope to have the opportunity to go back and like really get behind the scenes and like learn learn about the production and see all the effort behind up and coming artists back then who are now mega superstars. I mean, they even have Jay-Z in an interview, which is like rare nowadays. So yeah, man, yeah. It's the initial work, not knowing what people go through, but being able to kind of tell that story down the line when things get better and when you have the opportunity.
yeah, man, it's the journey, bro. Right? It's the journey that it's kind of like no one else knows the journey. Yeah, there are snippets along the way, but what it took to get to that point. And then a lot of times, I find that a lot of even these documentaries that are coming out now are about things that happened before their time. Like they were the first ever to do it this way, and then you fast forward 20 years, and everybody's doing it. It's industry standard, you know.
Right, right.
And the cool thing about Video Music Box was it was tapping into a community visually from an interview standpoint um, that you look at now, and you got the Revolt TVs, and you got the BET, and you got all these different types of conversation series, like you said, Rap City, where you have similar interview styles, but back then it was the first of its kind, or the first of its kind when
Right.
it comes to hip hop and rap and the culture. So, yeah, I think it'd be great to kind of dive into that, and I plan on watching it as well. Um, but that's one thing we have to always be mindful is the journey, man. The journey is not an easy one. You're gonna hit peaks and valleys, and you gotta sometimes you gotta put a little more energy than you want to. Sometimes you gotta step back. That's just a part of the
Right.
journey. So, like I said, I'm feeling better already having this conversation, and just letting it out. But uh, all I can do is continue to be hopeful and put my best foot forward, and hopefully, end the year strong. And 2022 is going to be better than 2021. That's a given. That's just how I roll. So, you know,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Right. That's the Thomas I want. I want to hear the arrogant shit talking Thomas.
Hey,
That's what I want to connect with. I want to hear arrogant shit talking.
I'm just saying, man. You know me. You know me. So,
Nah.
yeah.
All right. So, Midnight Marauders, sophomore album of Tribe Called Quest, released November 9th, 1993. Um, where do you want to start? Where do you want to start, man? I guess we could break down the crew of the Tribe Called Quest members.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so I guess I will also say the reason I chose this album, obviously it's a classic.
Well, I think that's later segment, right?
Eh,
That's segment 5. Why we chose this
No,
album.
no, but before I'm not going to jump in that far. I just want to give a
Oh, my
synopsis,
fault. My fault. Okay.
give on why I chose this album from a perspective of their significance, and I'm not going to dive into the significance of what they've done and how it's in the culture. Just essentially, I chose this album because of what it brings to hip hop. That's all I was going to say.
Okay.
That's it. What it brings to hip hop, and how it transitioned rappers and rap music to a new stratosphere. And we're gonna dive into that stratosphere. So that's why. But thanks for making sure I'm on segment. So I appreciate it.
I mean, I need the same. I need the
So
same. So Tribe Called Quest. We have Q-Tip, Fife Dog, Ali Shaheed Muhammad, and Jerobi White.
yeah,
And for me, this is my first time listening to this album. First time even listening to a Tribe Called Quest, or like knowingly listen to a Tribe Called Quest. Like I know some of the songs, but I never made the real connection. So I'm excited. I was excited to like dive into that classic hip hop. I don't like the idea of old school hip hop, but classic hip hop. And like to your point, an album or a generation of hip hop that kind of pivoted and propelled the culture turned genre also.
yeah, and then to piggyback off what you're saying, I think that the crew, the four of those guys, all brought a different dynamic to the team or to the collective. And
Right.
a Tribe Called Quest was a part of a bigger collective of artists that all were doing essentially the same type of music and kind of recreating or creating a version of hip hop that was beyond what we saw in the early '80s. So that's why I just think this album and what it brings and what it means to the culture is huge. And hearing people still talk about it or talk about specific songs, and even hearing the songs to this day, it's something I'm, yeah, no matter when I hear it, it's kind of like what we talked about in our last episode. Certain songs, Let It Snow with Boys and Men, for instance. When I hear that, I gotta watch the video. With this particular album, there's certain songs I hear that always have me going back to the album, and I can't just listen
Right.
to one song when I hear it. I'm like, next day I'm putting on the entire album. Um, so yeah, that's essentially what it represents for me. And um, yeah, man, it's special brothers, man. And I got a funny story about my introduction to them, because just like we 80 babies, right? Grew up we were born in the 80s, so really grew up. I didn't really get introduced to hip hop probably to the late 90s, for real, for real. Um, and when I first heard about the Tribe Called Quest, it wasn't even through them. It was through Q-Tip, because Q-Tip was solo, and I just remember
I
this.
know. I think I know what song you're gonna. I think I know what song you're gonna talk about. But
Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
it was solo Q-Tip. So I never knew Q-Tip was a part of a Tribe Called Quest until many many years after. But uh, it started out with a vibrant thing with Q-Tip.
Vibrant thing. Yeah, man.
That's the first. That was like my first introduction to Q-Tip, and then he's featured on other albums, and then the person that introduced me to a Tribe Called Quest, believe it or not, was Eminem. Um, and
Oh
a
shit.
lot of people a lot of people probably haven't watched this, and I would suggest you guys check it out. But Eminem talks a lot about the influence of Phife Dawg and the Tribe, um, for him, a Tribe for him. So he was the one that, like, I seen like this conversation he had talking about them, and I was like, wait, Q-Tip's a part of this? And then, being in my late teens, I went back and started listening to their music. So that's how I got introduced to the squad. And so yeah.
That's it's funny because vibrant thing was like the first song I heard too, and I remember the day I heard it. I think it was a Saturday. I think Funk Master Flex was DJing on Hot 97, and I thought it was 5 ring thing, and I'm like, oh, this he pimping, he got 5 rings. Like my mom was like, he pimping, he got 5 rings, and Flex just kept dropping a bomb and playing it through, playing it through, playing it through. Then that came out, then Breathing Stop. um and earlier you brought up how they all bring up different they all provide different aspects like the group. And I was thinking about like Q-Tip, like listening to this album, listening to Q-Tip single songs. To me, he's like the smooth, braggadocious one of the group. And Phife Dawg is like the lyrical assassin who's just raw and gritty and just get in your ass. But wondering like how you see the different artists in the
Absolutely.
group also.
Yeah, it's exactly the way you said. I think when I heard Q-Tip, first off, the name Q-Tip is interesting in itself, right?
Like clean your ears, right? Clean your
So
ears.
that's super super dope. But yeah, listening to Vibrant thing, I just looked it up. It came out in 1999. So listening to that, and like you said, Breathe and Stop, and all, just his style. He has a New York flavor. You got the Most Defs and the Talib Kweli's. They all have this flavor. Commons.
Right, right, right.
Commons from Chicago, but those are the artists that I grew up really listening to. So I agree. I couldn't agree more. And I think Phife Dawg. What's really cool about Phife Dawg is that the success of A Tribe Called Quest catapulted both pretty much everyone in the group, but Q-Tip just took his solo thing a little bit in a different way. Where I didn't really hear much from Phife Dawg later on in the years. I didn't really know much about Ali Shaheed and Jerobi, right? Those guys. I didn't really know much about them until I like started listening to the tribe. And then also another thing that I love about them is that they always show love to each other. So if you listen to a lot of their
Right.
songs, they'll shout out their other brothers. They'll introduce the other person before they jump on the track, and that's something I really really loved about it. Like they were the epitome of what a tribe is, because
Right.
lyrically, um, they just did a really good job. And I'm handing the mic over to Tip, or I'm handing the mic over to Ali, and it just was, that's something I really 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 dig. Um, so yeah, that. But I agree with you. I think exactly how you said it. They all, uh, Q-Tip is a smooth, like, just laid back cat who could throw some words together. He can say whatever he wants, but it just comes off real real
Right,
real
right.
real smooth and clean. And then Fife is Fife. So definitely agree with you there.
Cool, cool. All right, so let's jump into the album cover art. And I didn't know until like a half hour ago that there were three different album covers. It's all the same theme. The image of the like the first song is the intro, and it's kind of like, for me it's like a robotic voice talking, and I affiliate that or associate that to the main figure, in the middle of the cover art, which is like a red, green, black striped human silhouette. In the background, you just have different faces of different rappers, and the three different album covers are really just the trim. Like there's a clock around the edge of the album, and it just goes through different colors. There's green, yellow, and black. But like going back to what you just said about honoring other people, right? Like the album covers are just honoring the pioneers, right? Like I see Ice T, I saw Too Short, and I'm like, yo, like that, like Too Short. Too Short is one of those people who is like a legend if you know hip hop. Um, and even though he has like his whole thing is like pimping and and all of that, and for me it's dope to see like East Coast artists give Too Short his props, and it shows you for me it shows how interconnected hip hop was, even though the connection wasn't as easy as it is nowadays. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing about the album cover is that they highlighted the red, black, and green, and it was
Right,
really
right, 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 right.
Afrocentric. And I think back to what did I recently watch? I recently watched a documentary with Miles Davis about Miles Davis, and in the documentary, I can't remember which album it was, but one of his albums, uh, they put a white person on the cover of the album because they wanted to appeal to white audiences. And Miles goes to the record label. He's like, "Yo, we got to change this shit. Like it's not." And this was like maybe the '60s or the '70s, probably early in that '50s, '60s. And so after watching that documentary and then looking at this album cover and seeing the red, black, and green and the Pan African colors and all the artists' faces, I thought it was just something that was so powerful for us, even in the '80s, '90s, or came out early '90s, to be able to say, "Hey, this is going to be our album cover," even though there are three different versions of it. That was something that I felt was really, really important, and a lot of people probably still don't even know what that means. A lot of people look at it and they're like, "What does this represent?" But
Right.
if you know, you know, and that was something I thought was just super bold by those guys, and that's what their music was about. It was about highlighting and uplifting Black people, especially being from New York. That as a New Yorker, we know what it's like, and I see a lot of myself and or a lot of my upbringing, not myself, but a lot of my upbringing and their music and how they articulate it.
Right. So look, I looked it up real quick. A total of 71 different hip hop luminaries and radio DJs. Yeah, I saw Dre. I thought I saw Diddy, but I guess not. There's Beastie Boys, Kumo D, Large Professor, who's also featured in the album. Uh, De La Soul, which who they they rep in the couple of songs. Special Ed, like damn Zulu Nation, Africa Bambaataa, who's kind of questionable nowadays. But yeah, man, it's I have a point, but I'll bring it up later when we talk about the significance to the times. But yeah, so let's jump into the first track, and compare it to the last track. And for me, I kind of focused on the not the intro, but the actual first
Yeah,
song, which is Steve
yeah,
Biko. Let me get that right. Excuse me.
yeah. That's the first track.
Yeah,
Yeah, for me, it was just an introduction to the album. It was something that I didn't, I know we're gonna dive into some of the lyrical side of things, but for me, it was just it was like a let's be honest, because I know what track was coming up afterwards. The first track for me was just like, all right, this is an introduction to the album. The first, oh, the
let's
second track,
get to the heat.
the
Right.
second track, I guess. Uh, when the album starts for me, the album starts for me. You know, the next track, but
Right.
uh,
Right. Right.
it was just an intro to the album, to what's to come. Um, I would say, listening to it with a different ear, I realized that if you were someone who, or let me think back to when I listened to it many years ago for the first time, I was just blown away by the beats. That's what Tribe Quest is for me. It's the beats. Um, that's what it will always be. Um, so that's what that first track represented, was how they infused the jazz and the horns, and like it was lightly infused, but it was infused in that first track, and then it kind of gave me something for what's to come. So that's what it was for me.
Right. It felt very traditional to like what hip hop albums were in the past. It's an intro. It feels like an intro. There's the warm up. There's like it's very lighthearted, not too heavy on the bars. Just introducing a little bit of lyrical braggadocio, but it 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 was an appetizer, right? It was an
Word.
appetizer. It was like a good. It was a good appetizer. And like I looked up because I've never heard of Steve Biko before, so I looked it up, and he's a anti-apartheid, excuse me, activist from South Africa, which I mean it's always dope to hear. It's always dope to honor. Like initially, I hear the name Steve and I thought of a white guy, and I'm like, why they giving props to a white guy named Steve? Like maybe there's a hip hop artist named Steve like that I didn't know that I didn't know about. Maybe it's someone from the Beastie Boys or something. But again, I did the research, and it's dope to make people aware, right? Like it not now I'm aware, right? Like that's what it is sometimes. You just kind of put a name out there, and the people who are really gonna use the art for inspiration to learn more, right? Who aren't just gonna go for the lyrics and the beats, they're gonna do some research and educate themselves. So I think it's dope that, again, this album came out in '93, and here I am learning about a new anti-apartheid black activist for the first time in my life. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah,
Um
it's another thing
the last go ahead, sorry.
oh no, I was gonna say another thing that you bring up that I thought was interesting about the original track that just popped up in my head is that I've heard of Steve Biko before, and because of that, I was I was trying to find where I heard of him. Like I couldn't. I was like, man, where did I hear about this guy? So it took me a while, but I figured out I saw a movie based on his story. There's actually a movie, and I actually just looked it up now because I forgot who played in it. But it's a Denzel Washington plays Steve Biko in a movie called Cry
That's
Freedom.
crazy, bro. Holy, that's
And I
crazy,
seen the
man.
movie, and that's what when I saw the intro, I was like, yeah, I heard of this guy before, and I remember the movie. And the movie came out in 1987, and it's like I said, it's called Cry Freedom, and it's Steve Biko's story. Like, it's a story of essentially him being a part of and having this revolution in South Africa back in those times around apartheid. So uh, yeah, I literally was like, I heard this guy before, but where did I hear from? And because of that, it brought me back to the film. And anything Denzel, I probably have seen every Denzel movie, so even the bad ones.
Right.
So yeah, that was another interesting thing I realized looking at the track names, because a lot of times some of my favorite tracks, I don't know the names of them. I have no idea what the names are. I just hear them and I rock with them.
Right.
Which not to get off subject too much, but there's a couple Wu-Tang tracks out there I never knew the names of, and people are like, "Yo, you heard this? You heard this name?" And I'm like, "Nah, I never heard of it." And then when I hear the track, I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course."
Right. 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 Right.
So yeah, they're another one who I get them mixed up, the track names mixed up, but I know the song when I hear it. It's the same thing with Track Request.
Yeah. Even for a award tour, I always thought it was we're on a world tour.
Yep.
with my man. So yeah, I totally get it, man. I totally get it. Totally get it.
Yeah, it's also, I think that you look at the power of music, and how music is one side of things, and the lyrical side is one side of things. But then you look at the artwork, you look at the name of the tracks. When you get that detailed into it, there's a story behind it that we may never know, because a lot of us, we only heard the singles. We know the hot singles.
Right.
We didn't listen to
Right.
the whole album. And uh, there's a lot in this album to unpack. There's a lot around politics, and there's a lot around being black in America, and there's even tracks around love, and like it's very detailed. But you and I feel like uncovered that even when we did our our episode on 444 and a written testimony, same thing. Those things are there, but nobody pays attention to it because we're used to hearing the hot single.
Right, right, right,
So
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So comparing it to the last track, which is interesting because I looked on Genius and it says that there's a 14th track called Hot Sex, which I never knew about. Oh, sorry, a 15th track called Hot Sex. And maybe that's something we can try to find. Did you listen to that, or were you aware of that?
No, I listened to the album I listened to only had 14 tracks, so I don't. The last track I got
Right,
is
right,
God Lives Through. So
right.
maybe I listened
So I'm
to.
thinking maybe no. You listen to exactly what I listened to because everywhere I've checked, it only shows the 14 tracks with God Lives Through being the last one. So maybe we'll if we do the clubhouse, we can like listen to Hot Sex on a platter, and that'll be something else to talk about. But God Lives Through. I mean, that's in my like top songs for this album because it is just Fife Dog. Just for me, he went ham on this track, man. He went ham on this track, and it is like thinking about the flow of the album, right? You have this nice intro. It's just nice. It's whimsical. It's a nice appetizer. And Fife Dog just like he for me. My main focus was Fife Dog. Like I like Q-Tip, but he's not for me. Like when I listen to classic hip hop, I want raw, in your face energy, and to me, that's what Fife Dog offered. So listening to Five Dogs verse, just like I just had it on loop, because he's just talking his shit, man. He's just talking his shit, and I said that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. Yeah,
Yeah, again, you hit it on the head. If Steve Biko was the appetizer, God Lives Through was a culmination of the entire meal. Like
right,
it
right,
was, I feel like each song, and I agree with you. I rock with Fife and Q-Tip both, but I feel like on a lyrical level, as the album continued to go on, Fife just was doing it for me differently. Um, it was just a little different than what, and then also, like I said, because I was introduced to Q-Tip doing this poppy style. Like, I don't want to say vibrant thing is poppy, but it's more upbeat. It's not your typical hip hop. And then I
right,
listened to him here. I'm like, all right, cool, man. Like he used to be one of those guys, but I just really believe that most of these artists, when they're first coming out, when they're first creating, and same thing, movie stars. We all, you and I feel like we talk about all the time. They start off with the authentic shit, the shit that makes them.
right,
That they're like, man, I killed myself to get here. I put all this work in, and then once they hit the mountaintop, they're like, cool, we're just gonna make whatever now. And I don't want to say vibrant thing is that, but I think vibrant thing is a different Q-Tip. It's a more a Q-Tip who's been through it, who's made it. That's what vibrant thing is.
right,
So God Lives Through for me was a combination of each track and Fife just to me it was like a fight. And round one, Fife was just heating up. He was just heating up. And by the time, we get to track 13, 14, it's just, it's like I know who this guy is. I know who he represents. Now, to be fair, Tribe Called Quest has, I believe, I believe this is their third studio album. So they have other albums that, if you have an opportunity, if you're a fan, to hear some of what they're doing. But if this was your first album for them that you listened to, which this was my first, um, that was it. That was like, okay, this guy, and that's another thing too. Not to ramble, but you look at the true hip hop artists, like the true rappers, the true lyricists. A lot of them don't go on to make the poppy and the what's the word I'm looking for? They don't go on to make the music that is for everyone. They're always
right.
gritty.
They don't cross over. They
Crossover,
don't cross
perfect,
over.
perfect word, right? They don't cross over. So you look at even like the DMXs. When DMX, later on in his career, where he was making tracks, the tracks just wasn't good. They wasn't the DMX we knew. Um, and I feel like that's what was interesting about these guys is that Q-Tip went on and did some stuff, but Five Dog just stayed low key. He just stayed.
Right.
You didn't hear much about him. Obviously, he was ill, and that played a huge role in it. And as far as him having diabetes and being sick and so on,
Right.
but yeah, he just stayed true to himself through and through, and he'll ever be etched into history, forever, not ever, forever be etched in the history of hip hop. So, but yeah,
It's a, like the common phrase, right, in hip hop or blackness or the black experience rather, is keeping it real, right? I'm trying to keep it real, trying to keep it real, and keeping it real has limitations, right? These common phrase. I get this from Star, who used to be DJ on Hot 97, that the streets got no love, right? And we think they do. The streets love me. I got, you don't have, no one really has fans. The streets got no love. Like everyone's just meant to be consumed and recycled for self entertainment. So the challenge, especially with hip hop, right? Like I talked about not wanting to use the word old school hip hop because it limits the work. It limits the creativity and it puts it in a box to saying that it's not relevant anymore, which isn't true, right? You look at the genre, there's no such thing as old school rock, no such thing as old school jazz. It's all classic. It's classic. It's classic. It's classic. And it has longevity and it has uh I guess I'll just stick with it has longevity. So that's the challenge, right? Like, do you go back to the idea of crossover? Do you cross over to I mean, crossover has its benefits, right? Like you can Q-Tip essentially crossed over, let's say, but now it introduces people to his old music too, which is more important, right? Like right now he's so like you look at the Tribe Called Quest, that music is for hip hop culture, right? The newer music that Q-Tip was doing, that's just for himself having fun, wanting to branch through, but it still benefits the overall group and the overall initial work that he put in. And I think maybe that's the connection that kind of needs to stay, uh, I guess, valid or ongoing to so it doesn't feel like people crossed over too much or they're not putting as much work or they turn their back on the experience. And it's challenging, right? Because at some point you just have to kind of do for self, and only you can know when that time is for you. For Q-Tip, it was like you said, I think 96 or 99 when Vibrant Thing came out. And for Fife Dog, it was never. He like there's a realization that hip hop is going in a different direction, and someone like Fife Dog might not necessarily have a place because the genre is changing and turning to something different. It doesn't have a place for him, unfortunately.
yeah, you're spot on. I actually just looked at my notes. You look back at when they first started in the '80s. I believe it was '85 when they came together, and later on when they joined forces in this collective, Native Tongues. And you look at the artists from it. I'm just looking at some of the artists who I never heard of them before I looked this up. It's like two of them I heard of, right? The Jungle Boys. I didn't really know. I heard of the Jungle Brothers. I'm sorry, Jungle Brothers. Never really knew anything about them. Never listened to their music. De La Soul. I knew who they were, but never knew
Right?
any of their music. Queen Latifah. By the time I found out about Queen Latifah, she was in movies. So
Really?
yeah, I like it's so funny. I was yesterday. I was at work and I had a customer come in. She's like, "You and I are the same age," and I was like, you know, probably not. And she's like, "I come from the era of UNITY." And she's like, "You know who makes that?" And I'm like, "Nah." Which obviously I know. I was just messing with her. So I'm like, "Nah."
Right, right,
She's
right,
like,
right.
"The Queen," and it was just so funny to me.
You're like Little Kim, the Queen Bee. Little
It
Kim.
was just so funny because she was so like, yo, we come from the same era, and she was like in her early 40s. I'm about to be 35, so we're not that far off. But it was just interesting because that's how she articulated our connection, and I thought that was hilarious. But Queen Latifah, I didn't really know her as a musician until later on, until I started to look back at that stuff. Moni Love, another another artist that I didn't really know much about until I really looked into to uh, to hip hop back in those days, um, and that brings up to your point. A lot of these artists, and it's not even artists, it's any one of us. We evolve. We
Right.
transition. we work on a project and that project evolves and it might turn into you becoming like Queen Latifah's been in, tons of movies. Um, you might
Isn't she the new
she is
Equalizer from the Denzel Washington movie? Yeah,
she's the new
yeah.
equalizer. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't talk bad about black people shows, so it's incredible. Um, but I'm just thinking like actors. Like I was watching something recently.
LL Cool J,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, another one.
Sorry.
No, but he's another one. Like a lot of these people, they didn't do anything wrong. They just found a lane that works for them, and
They
that's
evolved.
that's
Yeah,
the beauty. Like that's the beauty in it. That they're no less raw than what they were. Like Will Smith used to be a hip hop artist. Like that was what he was. Jazzy Jeff and those guys. That's what he was doing, right? So it's just so cool to see. You see people in their truest form evolve into something else. But the people that stay behind, they're no less important. They're no less interesting. They just have a different. They just took a different route. Um,
right.
but I was gonna bring up. I recently watched something. Cree Summer, I believe her name is Cree Summer, who used to be on a different world. Was she on a different world? Yeah, different world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was a
Yeah,
damn it. Go ahead. I'll
she's
figure it
on
out.
she's on a different world. But I just watched this whole piece about her leaving acting and focusing on like voiceovers. So she's
Right,
done all these
right.
voiceover characters over the last 20 plus years. From our homie on Rugrats, which I didn't put two and two together, but she plays the young lady from Rugrats and a couple other characters, um, in different animations. And I was thinking to myself, it's beautiful she was able to transition like that and find a different calling for herself. And because she's doing those, when she was doing those voiceovers, she wasn't outwardly like in the public eye like that, but she was doing something
Right.
she loved to do, and she found something that fits her, and that's something that I really really admire, especially when it comes to you starting out doing one thing and transitioning to something else.
Right. Freddie. I can't believe I forgot Freddie.
And,
Freddie, go
and I
ahead,
was gonna
Freddie.
say like Sarah, or something. And we did a whole episode on
Right, right,
two
right, right,
episodes
right,
on a
right,
different
right,
world.
right.
Can't remember Freddie. Uh,
Um,
that's funny.
all right, so let's do standout tracks, man. What were the two standout tracks for you?
There was like seven, but I try my best to stick away from get away from the main tracks. So on the album there was three singles that were featured, which was Award Tour, Oh My God, with of course Busta, Young Busta, and then
Right,
Electric Relaxation, which is mm, it's just, the beginning of that track is just everything to me. Um,
right, right, right,
so I try to stay away from the main tracks. Uh, but a couple of tracks that stood out for me was "Clap Your Hands." Um, "Clap Your Hands" was a dope track for me because of how in the track, the whole album they do a really great job in doing this fusion of jazz with hip hop, with scratching and spinning. If you, I'm sure I can listen to the instrumentals only and love it. But in the track clap your hands. There's this. The lyrics are great, but I I was more drawn to the transitions between uh, the DJ scratching and the horn. Um, and I don't know if you remember it, but it just the way it starts is just so dope to hear. It basically to me reminds me of two different eras because I'm a big Miles Davis Coltrane guy, and I could just see Coltrane in the booth playing his sax with a DJ just scratching over it, and that's what that
that's
that's what
dope.
that track did for me. I was just like, wow, this is great, and obviously lyrically it's fire, but that was my first one, and then
Real quick, I just did like a quick snippet, listen
yeah,
to it. Yeah, yeah, it's something about scratching, man. Something about scratching. I don't know what it connects with, right? I'm not. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I literally just played 3 seconds, and it's like throw the hands, and I'm like, I like that. I like that. But like you said, it is. It feels kind of like jazz, right? Like the improvisation or the um. I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it some more. Maybe it'll come to me while we keep talking. Yeah, something about scratching is dope, man. It's really dope.
Yeah, as someone who is, I guess, younger, right? We're still, we were introduced to this stuff later or after a lot of these artists came out with it. It just mind blowing to me, and the homage they pay, man. A lot of their tracks, more specifically with Tropical Quest, they pay homage to hip hop artists and jazz musicians years prior, like Kool and the Gang. They feature a lot of Kool and the Gang on this album. Um, so that was what stood out to me with that particular track, and then uh, they like I said, there's so many really good ones. So I don't want to take away from them all, but Sucker Nigga did it for me too, bro. Like that track,
Yeah.
just lyrically and how even Q-Tip and Fife talk about and break down uh, just different ways the word. And I don't want to say it 50,000 times because I don't want YouTube not to show a video, but essentially how they share their story and the history of the word was something that really stood out to me.
Well, I think sucking nigga is only Q-tip.
Oh well, it was Q-Tip, but how he's just breaking it down, and he talks about how the word was uh, established, and then he breaks it down in different ways. It just that I dig it. I dig it a lot. So though, obviously, I have other ones that I want to choose, but I had to make this conversation a little more interesting. So those would be the two.
I almost had sucking nigga in my top two, and it's interesting because like these past again, like I'm going through this whole evolution of like how I want to experience the black experience, and like I've been telling myself, like I've gone back and forth with nigga. I'm sure we've had conversations about it in the past. I'm like, you know what? Like, I think I'm done calling other black people nigga. Like, I'm over it. I don't. I understand both sides of it, but personally, I'm just over it. I'm not a nigga. You not a nigga. Like, we beyond that. There are niggas out there, right? There are niggas. There are niggers out there. I know we know them. We know what they look like. We know how they behave. But the vast majority, that's not what we are. So I'm trying to transition out of it. So listening to it and hearing Q-Tip um offer his rationalization on like like yeah it's nothing, we like the old idea of we've utilized it and made it uplifting. I get
Yeah, you got to
but
remember the
for
times too.
me uh yeah, very true, very true, very true. Maybe it was necessary back then to kind of have that perspective that the word nigga isn't it is something that we owned and took over, and maybe it served its purpose. I think that's it. It served its purpose, right? And now we need to kind of let go of that. Um, so the first track for me that I really enjoyed was Midnight, and like you said, I had a lot of songs to choose
Yeah,
from,
Midnight's
and
good.
I choose right. I choose Midnight because it's Q-Tip solo, and it's him just like really showing his creative wordsmith flow and ability. Um, I like that it connects with the concept of the album Midnight Marauders. Marauders are I lost the definition of how they presented it. Let me pull it up real quick. Oh, do you mind pulling it up real quick? Because
Yeah,
they
I
talk
got you.
about Marauders in one of the skits, right?
Yeah,
And just connecting it to the idea of like, while I was listening to that song and I connected it with the idea of again the Marauders. I'm thinking about what music used to be in the past and how people used to experience music. Nowadays, right? Music is anytime I want, right? We were talking just now. I'm gonna go listen to a clip while you're talking, and the clip is gonna play while you're talking, right? We just have infinite access to music. But in the past, listening and really experiencing music it was personal and it was secluded, right? Like, and whether it was a song or in that skit, they talked about like you listen to music late night, right? After you've lived your life, you've done everything you need to. Late at night, right? You sit back, you unwind, you chill out, you put your headphones on, like all the MCs on the album cover, and you listen to music and you connect. And like the nighttime offers this the nighttime I guess gifts you the freedom to like disconnect from everyone and everything and just focus on art, creativity. You think about artists from like the 80s and 90s and when people were really creating, like thinking about how live the dangerous also, but like how live the night scenes were in like the 80s and 90s in New York City when it came to community and it's being out there, freestyle on the corner, breakdancing, like there was a culture behind being awake and being outside at night, and it just doesn't feel the same anymore.
Yeah, I'm still looking at. I'm going through a
All right,
clip.
cool. Then the second song was the last song, "God Lives Through," and for me, it's again this Fife dog, yo, like he said, in the first verse, and this kind of ties in with like to the next part of like lines that we loved. Now if my partners don't look good, Malik won't look good. If Malik don't look good, then Quest won't look good. If the Quest don't look good, then Queens won't look good. But since the sounds are universal, New York won't look good. And everything we've been talking about in terms of honoring the people on your team, right? Representing the black experience and knowing that as an artist he has a responsibility not for just himself but for Queens, for Malik, for Quest, and for New York, because as an artist, right, you represent your city, you represent your coast, you represent your area, so you always have to present, you always have to represent. And I think it's kind of the foundation of what hip hop was, and an understanding, going back to the idea of like the midnight aspect and being a community late at night, being with people and creating a vibe and creating a culture that shows other people that you are the best, right? Shows other people that the best East Coast, Beast Coast, excuse me, East Coast, Beast Coast, West Coast is the best coast and stuff like that. And you can say it, right? You can say it, but without having the artist, the content, the creativity to back it up, it doesn't mean anything. And, no, and him saying that sh- shows like his awareness of his responsibility as an artist, and that's dope to me. That's dope to me.
Where I hear you, bro. Like, the way you articulated was so good. Ooh, I love it. All right, so I found a skit. The skit goes, 7 times out of 10, we listen to our music at night. Hence
What's the name of it, real quick?
what's the name
Sorry.
of what the skit? I
Yeah.
don't know it.
Or what song is it on?
So I don't even know. I just found it. I looked up the skit. I didn't look up the song.
All
Um,
right. Go ahead. Sorry.
but I'll tell you in a sec. Let me read what.
I'll pull it up while you
All
talk.
right, let me just read what it said. Do you want me to share it or you want to look it up?
You can share, but I'll pull it up to see where it's
Okay.
featured.
7 times out of 10, we listen to our music at night. Hence the reference to midnight. The definition of maraud means to invade, attack, or raid. So essentially, we're about to experience midnight marauding of the airs, which is fire, super super fire.
It is, man.
Um,
Right.
and it makes so much sense. That's why when it's, I think another thing that you bring up as you, or it was brought to me as you were sharing that, is that uh, throughout the album they define, like they have these little skits where they're defining what's coming, what's happening. So
Right.
you're not just listening to something you're like, what the hell is this? They're like going into it. They'll have like a couple of tracks and then they have this computer voice, right? I guess computer, or I don't know, AI voice break it down for you, like, yo, what you're about to witness. And I really really dig that about the album as well. They were on to something
Right.
for sure. So
Yeah, man. So that skit it's the outro to Award Tour, which and exactly to your point about it being like an intro to what's coming. The next song is 8 Million Stories, which is Fife Dog's solo song, and he's just talking about like an experience of like the nightlife and women, and like just just being in a late night environment. So I really like that you brought up that perspective. So I have an unpopular opinion about award tour. It might be
Plus, how do you
unpopular.
know it's so popular?
You're right. You're right. You're right. Because yeah. I mean, so the opinion. I have an opinion about award tour. I think the chorus is dope, but I think lyrically it's a lyrically weak song. I think it's a lyrically weak song. Um, and it still feels like an appetizer, like Steve Biko. That's my perspective. That's my opinion.
Hey, it's fair. I would say the reason it's a lyrically weak song is they probably. Oh, no, let me rephrase that. I believe the reason is they probably needed to appeal to the masses because it was a single. They had to make it something that
Right.
back
Right.
in the
Right.
'90s people would listen to. It's catchy. It's
Right.
I believe it's the highest sold single. If I'm not mistaken, I have to look it up to verify. But I'm pretty sure out of all their songs, that is the highest listened to and sold single. So lyrically, it
It
could be
is.
trash, but
It is.
because people could sing it, it it
Yeah.
it may and that's another thing about artists too. They'll make something that is going to be good for the masses, but then when you listen to the album, you're like, wait, I didn't even know he could spit like this.
Right.
I didn't even
Right.
know she had the ability to. Like, I'm a huge fan of Rhapsody, who's a. I don't even want to say she's up and coming out because she's been killing it in the last couple of years. But female artist out of North Carolina, she's fire, bro. And the first couple of songs I used to listen to hers, I used to be like, these are so surface level. And then her latest album, she's killing it. And I realized as I've gotten older and I've started to listen to music differently that a lot of these artists they just put out music to get you to kind of go and take a listen to get to introduce you to their other stuff, their other music, their other
Right.
the real thing they want you to be a part of. So that's probably what Award Tour was, but only those four know. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's super dope. I appreciate you sharing that perspective is spot on with that. Um, you also talked a little bit about some of the lyrics, like, and it's funny too because when I look at the lyrics, like when I'm reading them off a piece of paper compared to listening to them, I always screw them up because there's a specific type of flow that goes with a track, right?
Right.
So
Right. Right.
I feel like you be writing down the flow, but when you be spitting it and you got it with the and I be reading it like it was the night, like you you always do that. You always get me there. It's like you practice the flow a little bit before we jumped on, and you were like, "Yo, if I'm gonna spit this, I'm gonna spit this right." Whereas me, I'm like
Yeah,
stuttering
but
because it's spelled funny or
right.
it's hilarious. Um,
That's the answer. I don't want to disrespect the art. I don't want to disrespect the art. So I put as much soul, like we talked about soul, right? I put as much soul into it as I can.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right. You're
but
right.
you get me. I literally be reading the lyrics off of like Rap Genius, and you over here spit it just so nicely with so much the attitude, and I'm like, damn,
That bar.
I gotta pass it on to you, bro.
Go ahead. Um, so I guess I'll do my second favorite lyric since I already did the first, and it kind of intertwined with the song. This is on Lyrics to Go, which is it's like those last two songs. Like for me, initially I thought um God Lives Through and Lyrics to Go were kind of like bonus features because at the end of the Chase Part Two, it's kind of like the AI voice that's like an outro. So I thought it was bonus tracks, but Lyrics to Go and God Lives Through are probably some of the best outro music to the album I've ever heard. Um, Most notably in Lyrics to Go is Q-Tip, and this one I'm definitely gonna butcher, but Q-Tip. Uh, yeah. So Q-Tip goes, a poetry machine with correct mechanisms, immune to disease. I defeat organisms That awaiting in my path, I overstep the critters, give your ass the willies and your moms will get the jitters. Quitters turn to losers, losers are forgotten, tangling my core with the hopes that I'll stop rocking. And the line that stood out to me the most was give your ass the willies and your moms will get the jitters. I just always think it's dope when people incorporate like I'm gonna hem you up so much your family's gonna be like your family's gonna catch the Holy Ghost, right? Or they're gonna be out of it. So that was really it for me. And again, it like the flow and Q-Tip's braggadocio, stunting on people. I value and I appreciate it.
I love it.
So yeah, that's all I got for that.
Nice, bro. So
So for the lyrics you do, try let's add some soul, see what happens.
okay, I'm gonna butcher them because it's also funny too because a lot of the lyrics we choose they're like in the middle of the song. So if we started it from the beginning, I feel like I could get it because I know the beginning. But because it's in the middle of the song, I just butcher them. But I'm okay with butchering them because I am not a hip hop artist. I apologize to the whole tribe, man. I appreciate y'all, but I'm going to butcher these lyrics. So I'll do my best, but I'm probably gonna butcher them. For me, we can get down. It's the end. It's a five verse, verse one at the end of that in the beginning of the track, and essentially before I jump into it, I love how he talks about how hip hop is positive. So the lyric is when the tribe the lyric is
Don't be nervous. You
no,
good.
no,
Don't
I'm
be
trying to do
nervous,
it.
bro.
I'm not nervous. I just want to do it. I want to try to get it the way you get
No,
it.
I'm just talking shit. I'm just talking shit, bro.
I'm
I'm
trying to
talking
think how
shit.
I'm gonna do it. Uh, I'm just gonna read it. I'm just gonna read it regular. Bro. It's gonna sound weird, but the lyric is, "My man, where you
Pull
going?"
up Spotify. Listen to it real quick.
Nah, I'm not. I'm still gonna butcher it. But it's, "My man, where you going? You can't escape. When the tribe's in the house, that means nobody is safe. How can a rep preach when a rep can't define the music of our youth from 1979?" Ooh, you like that? You like that, Cliff? Come on. Uh, we rap but what we see, meaning reality from people. Why are you laughing? It's the way I'm doing it, right? I do it. Uh, from people busting caps. Why are you laughing at me? You screw me up.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Now I
Don't
gotta do
worry
it over.
about me. Go ahead.
Now you're laughing, so it's messing me up. We rap by what we see, meaning
I
reality,
apologize.
from people busting caps and like Mandela being free. Not every MC be with the negativity. Your face is hilarious too. We have a slew of rappers pushing positivity.
Come on, man.
Hip hop will never die, yo. It's about the rap. So May and Barry smoking crack. Let's preach about that.
That was good, bro. That was good,
Oh
man.
God.
That was good, man. That was good.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It would have been good if you let me read the whole thing. But the reason the reason that verse stands out to me is obviously Five is talking. He brings up all these different figures that also have or have been looked at as negative but have positive tones to them, right? So he talks about Mandela. He talks about Mayor Barry. So Mayor Barry actually was the mayor of DC who got caught smoking crack back in the 80s and ended up running for mayor in the 90s and won. So he was mayor again, which is also just has this crazy thing to it. But he goes on to say, and I don't even want to read it because you're going to laugh at me, but he goes on to say, the trash you talk won't matter, that old bogus chatter. The more that you condemn us, it only makes us fatter. When I talk, I know I'm talking for hip hoppers all around. You know, you love the sound. We can get down. Um, and like I said again, it's just him highlighting hip hop, him talking about these other figures who have a similar tone in where they are and what they're doing, but also on the flip side, has that negative side, but also has that positive side. And he's like, it doesn't matter what you guys say, it doesn't matter what you guys do. I'm pushing hip hop. Like hip hop is gonna prevail, and that's something that really
Right.
stood out for me. So that's why I chose. That was my first lyric. Um, the second one, it's a couple, but I try. I was really trying my best not to stick to the singles, but it's just something about electric relaxation that's from like just something about that track.
Right.
The,
Do you think about the Wayne's brothers when it comes on?
I do think about the Wayne's brothers, but and that's another thing. I'm pretty sure that's the first time I heard it, right? But
Right.
I obviously didn't have all the lyrics, but I heard that's the first time I heard. I was introduced to it. But the beginning of Q-Tip's verse, where he's like, "Honey, check it out."
All right. So real quick, this is the beginning, right? So you said that if you're starting, you should be able to do it.
Yeah. So
So
now,
you're starting, you should be able to
so
do
that's funny. Now you gonna put me on the
it. Come on.
spot. I like that.
You said it. You said it. I ain't
Yo,
forget.
I listen. I'm gonna spit the verse. If it work, it work.
There we go. Let's go.
I
Let's go.
just
Let's
those
go.
of you who are listening to this, you try it too. So don't just shun me because Cliff is over here getting on me about it. You try to do this. Um, but the verse is, "Honey, check it out. You got me mesmerized with your black hair and your fat ass thighs. Street poetry is my everyday. But yo, I gotta stop when you thought my way." There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Try.
I'm sorry, trap my way.
He's not
I don't know why
found.
I
You
said
call
that.
that foul.
I wrote that. Let's leave what I wrote. When you trap
Oh
my way,
man.
if I was working at the club, you would not play. You would not pay. My man Fife Dog, he got something to say. Um, that so the reason that stood out to me was just as the beginning of the at the beginning of the track for any song. I feel like any song that you do is what really gets people tied in, right? Or really draws people in. And I could just close my eyes and picture, like, visualize that. And the way the beat goes into it, and the first couple bars when they're just like, "Relax yourself, girl, please settle down." When they just keep saying that, and then it goes into that, just fired at me. And then once again, like I told you earlier,
Right.
I really, really value the fact that these brothers always introduce or big up or hype up whoever's next on the track or on the verse. And that was something I really digged with how Q-Tip do his boy Fifing. So yeah, those are my two. I'm never doing this again. You know what I'm gonna start doing? I'm gonna start practicing my verses with the tracks. That way I can do them right. But those are my two.
So like so for someone it's like for electric relaxation, I know the rhythm because Kanye did a song over it. So even when I go through the lyrics, I just think of Kanye rapping and I kind of intertwine it. Um, so that's like how I mean I remember things differently, and not differently, but like that's how I remember things. I just associate them with something else. I'm not trying to play you. This is just fun. It's just funny. I'm
Yeah,
not trying to play you, Thomas.
no,
It's
no,
just
no.
funny.
I,
It's
I,
just funny, bro.
I don't. I'm just now. I'm never gonna do it again. We're never doing another episode about me. Like, come on, bro. I don't. I don't care. And I don't care whoever listens to this. I care that you listen. But if you feel like I can do better, let's do some lessons. And hopefully, you're a beautiful, beautiful woman because I'm single. I always say that in every episode. Um, but uh, but no, I think again, being an artist and writing music, a lot of times they do it to a beat, right? And they have a specific type of cadence, and that goes to show you the talent it takes to be able to even create something
Right.
off the dome. Like you think about artists like, I'm a huge Jay Z guy. A lot of Jay Z lines, or most of his music, he don't write. He's always been known as this artist that doesn't write. He spits a lot of it off the dome. So, me having a challenge, because I don't want to say trouble. If I practice, I'll probably be good at it. But me having a challenge with it, it just goes with the territory. It's a sign of respect for the greats, and that's how I look at it.
Right.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. All right. So what made you choose this album, man? Like, what was it that stood out to you that made you want to go back to this album, reflect on it, and redissect it?
The biggest thing was just the instrumentals. Like, as I said several times throughout this conversation, big jazz guy, and to fuse jazz with hip hop beats, and to fuse the horns, and even there's some tracks that have some bass in them, and to utilize that and fuse it to hip hop is just something that I really really loved. And now I'm very much so thinking about like listening to the album, just only the instrumentals for each track, just to see what that sounds like. I'm sure it'll give me a different experience. And then
Right,
and then hip hop, especially in late '80s, early '90s, was just different, man. It's just different. Like, we talk a lot of shit now, and we're like, yo, what happened to the real hip hop artists? Or we don't have real hip hop artists. And we talk about the J. Cole's and the Kendricks, and those guys. But you look at the guys in the early '90s, it was just different, man. And uh, Tribe Called Quest, they had this ability to storytell. It reminds me a lot of like Slick Rick and those guys, the LL. Storytelling was at its finest back then. You do a whole track,
right.
and you're going on a journey with them. Um, so that was really the one of the main reasons I chose this album, and I wanted to pay homage to Fife Dog, man. I was blessed to have the ability to uh, meet. I didn't meet him, but I met his wife, and she gifted me uh, out in Queens. They did this whole memorial for him, and they named a portion of Linden Boulevard um, after him. And she gave me
That's
she
dope.
was she was kind enough to give me one of the hoodies. Uh, she gifted me a hoodie when I met her. I was speaking to some students, and I just wanted to pay homage to him because I feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves as a lyricist.
Right,
And a lot of times when you talk about Tribe Called Quest, people think about Q-Tip because he's a little more popular than the rest of the guys. But Fife Dog is the one
right.
that put it together, man. He's the one that put the team together. So I just wanted to pay homage to him and show him love, and let people know that we think about, just because someone's going doesn't mean that we can't uh we can't pay homage to them. We can't show them love. Their music's gonna be around, many many years to come, and even 100 years from now, people are gonna be, hopefully still listening to, what we say is classic hip hop. So that was my reasoning behind choosing this album.
So it's dope. Like I mentioned that this is my first time listening to the album. So all the reasons why you chose it were the feelings and thoughts I had going through it, like the first few times. Um, it put me in a space. It put me in a headspace. Right, like I feel like a lot of music nowadays is just about consuming, just listening, just to say you did it. Like I did it. I listened to the new Drake album. I listened to the new Kanye album. I can talk about it and I can go about my life. But this album, it feels like a storytelling, right? It, like we talked about the intro, it's being light and being appetizer. It feels like a full course, right? It's a full course in hip hop, a full course in New York rap, a full course in um, hip hop in that era of a full course of rap in that era of hip hop. Um, and it kept me in the zone. I'd say, which a lot of music doesn't that much, right? It because it flows seamlessly. There's the commercial songs which kind of break it apart. But they, the commercial songs are meant to like kind of bring you back in, right? Because the content is lyrically heavy, which I like and which I miss from like current hip hop. But I know that since it's classic and it's kind of the old way, the popular songs reel me back in, and sometimes they force me like, hey, you know what? Like this is like two songs now, and I missed a few songs. Let me go back and re-listen and like see, like you talked about the outro being a like an introduction to what's coming next. And at times I realize that I've missed certain songs or I've missed the hook because I'm doing other things, so it helps reel me back in, and like really listening to it and really focusing and like going through it song by song, paying attention. it, it's nostalgic, right? It's nostalgic for what the genre used to be. It's nostalgic for what storytelling used to be compared to what it is nowadays. And it honors, I guess, like you said, it honors where the music came from and what it used to be, what story, I guess, what storytelling should be. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that because I feel like you are you and I are very critical people, just in general. We're just very critical when it comes to what we consume, and this podcast is our way. It's basically our love letter to the Black experience and to Black culture.
Right.
And to be able to hear you say, when I listened to this, I felt exactly what you shared. It's something that it just means a lot to me because I feel like if you and I never met, if we weren't friends and we didn't never talk, and you heard this album one point in your life and I heard this album another point in my life, we would have similar thoughts about it. And that's what the music is about. Now, obviously, it would have been different
Right.
if we listened to it when we were in our early 20s, our teens versus now. But it's just mind blowing to me when music or anything could have that type of impact. Um, and that's why I really, really love going through these albums. And this is our history. A War Tour is a part of our history. A Tribe Called Quest is a
Right.
part of our history, especially New York history. So yeah, man, I love hearing that you enjoyed it, and whenever you tell me you can listen to something or watch something fully, I know I got you because some things you watch, you're like, oh, this is cool, but nah. So love hearing that you enjoyed the album.
Right. And even, thinking about the name award tour, again, it being like the major single, and you are right that it is their most successful single. And it's thinking about, hip hop still kind of hip hop was still kind of in its infancy in the early 1990s, and no, imagine them like being on tour, right? And it's like, yo, we out here on we're out here on tour where um celebrating like the success of this album and this music and in hip hop. And I remember I can't remember what I was listening to or watching, but I think it was Q-Tip, and he was saying that like when Award Tour was like what was it, number 7 on the top Billboard's Hot Dance Music Sales chart, peaking at number 7 on the Hot Raps chart. Like they were still sleeping like in their parents' house, like they were still home sleeping on the floor. Like the single, excuse me, the single made it, music made it, the group made it, but them as individuals, they were still going through it, right? And it, going back to the earlier conversation of not knowing people's journey, knowing what they were going through at the time, right? On our end, it's just we just see the creation. We just know, this is dope. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna listen to it. I'm not aware of what the artist was going through, and it doesn't matter to me. But once you become aware, it should matter. It should matter. Um, and I did my own podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I've been really just thinking about the differentiation between hip hop and rap, and I wanted to get, and it's something I think I wanted to get your perspective on it. And in We Can Get Down, Five Dog says hip hop will never die, like you mentioned, and my thought and my realization is that hip hop is dead, right? Hip hop is dead. I consider hip hop the culture. Hip hop was the culture. Hip hop was rap music. It was the break dancing. It was the graffiti. It was emceeing. It was DJing. It was all these multiple layered uh, artistries that were under the umbrella. But now we just have rap. Now it's just rap music, right? All those other aspects of hip hop are dead. It's just rap music that exists now. And I brought up the idea like it's not mumble hip hop. It's just mumble rap, right? It's hip. It's what, pop rap or something, like, or rap pop. And because anyone can rap now, right? We've like looking at this album, looking at the we talked a lot about the lyricism and the production of this album, and you look at what rap is now, and it's overall right. What's being sold, what's being marketed, what the majority of people like isn't about lyricism. It isn't about s- storytelling. If it is about storytelling, it's like a segment, right? It's like a segment of I was here, then I was here, then I was here, then I was here, then I was here. Where like you look at a song like 8 million, what was it? 8 million, excuse me, 8 million stories, and it's like a transition of like a whole night event, like we talk about the Midnight Marauders, and like being in a space at night, being with different people within a single night. So wanted to get your perspective on whether you agree, you disagree, you have a different perspective on hip hop being dead, but rap kind of being the only thing that's left over.
Yeah, it's when you say hip hop is dead, I always think about Nas's Nas's track where he actually like breaks down
Right.
why hip hop is dead. But I actually don't believe hip hop is dead because in my mind, something can't die that doesn't that's gonna live forever. For instance, hip hop. You look at us talking about this album, it'll never die. Like I just said earlier, it's going to be around years and years and years. Maybe the production and the creation of hip hop is dead, but the music that's been created before us is always going to be here. So I don't look at it as hip hop is dead. I look at it as, or I understand what people are saying. Like what's coming out now is also what's coming out now isn't hip hop. But but it isn't the hip hop of the '90s or the '80s or even the early 2000s, right? It's it's what's relevant now. Like they're having their revolution now, um,
Right.
and that's how I look at it. I don't believe hip hop is that. I believe that you know I'm huge, like I said, a huge Jay-Z fan, and when I listen to the Blueprint 2, it's like listening to it when I was 15, 16. Like that's my album. I think music, movies, TV show, they have the ability to transcend time because you can always go back to them. And you can always what's going to happen is someone 50 years from now is going to listen to this album and they're going to fall in love with hip hop and evolve hip hop. This little kid who it may be my great great grandson, which would be hilarious. But
Right. Right.
so I don't really believe it. I hear I get what artists are saying, like hip hop is dead, but you know, it, even the artists that say it, like going back to Nas, you go back to Nas's past albums, they still exist. People still can listen to them. People still can be influenced by them. They still tell stories. So in that way, hip hop is alive and breathing. It's just not as relevant, and we have to find ways to make it relevant again. That's all.
Right. I mean, I feel like I'm my perspective is differentiating between hip hop and rap. Like I feel like all the examples you gave were just focused on rap, which is absolutely within the realm of hip hop. And rap is the genre, and I'm looking at hip hop as the culture and the like I said, the multifaceted, multi layered culture. Because outside of rap, all right. So outside of rap, what's hip hop to you nowadays? What's hip hop? What's part of hip hop to you that isn't related to rap?
I always looked at hip hop as more of a culture, less than just the music. Um,
No, no. I'm saying that also. I'm saying rap is the music, hip hop is the
yeah.
culture.
So, but you're saying outside of rap being the music today in today's society, correct? That's what you're asking me.
Right. Outside of rap music being that's part of hip hop. What else is hip hop culture to you? What else is hip hop to you nowadays that isn't rap music?
Gotcha. Okay, so how I was articulating it or was going to articulate it is, uh, yes, rap is a part of the culture, but there, I feel like there's so many there's layers to it because I feel like you look at like athletes like now you watch with NBA guys, you watch NBA commercials, you see them talking about hip hop, and they use influence. when it comes to sneaker culture, when it comes, like, I feel like hip hop is in the arts. It's in drawings. I see it in artwork. I see it in NFTs. I see, like, I feel like hip hop is all around us. It's not specifically around just rap in this day, but again, a lot of our the historians, they're all older now, right? They're all dying off, and they're getting to a point where it's up to us to kind of push it forward. So to answer your question more specifically, I'm looking at a lot of the artwork that's out there, a lot of sneaker, how it's involved in sneaker culture, how it's better involved in sports. Um, you correct me if I'm wrong, but 10 years ago, maybe even shorter than that, you never saw an NBA commercial with talking about culture or hip hop culture or anything like that. Um, and I
Right.
feel like that is a part of hip hop. Hip hop is a part of that. You even see athletes now. There's a segment they do on Inside the NBA where they talk about clothes. What athletes wearing compared to the music they're listening to, compared to how they're playing, and there's all these different. Now they've created this kind of melting pot of culture. And I think very smart marketing move for NBA. Some of the other sports to do that, but not to ramble. But that's where I see hip hop being involved in everything that's going on. So I hope
All
that
right.
answers
All
your
right.
question.
Yeah, it does. It does. So I guess the kind of tying into that, I guess for you, what are like the cultural significance of this album in modern day time, for the Black experience, for hip hop, lessons learned, things we're still working on.
Yeah, the cultural side of it is always, it's a challenge, and it somewhat goes back to what we're talking about with hip hop being dead, because it's up to us to introduce our youth and introduce young Black people to this side of their history. It's like Black history to an extent.
Right.
So
Black History
yeah,
podcast.
it's Black history, but it's hip hop and it's music. So I think the cultural relevance is there, but we have to do a job, just like we talk about Kwanzaa and not, doing, us not celebrating it, or us not knowing about it and being educated about it. I feel like it's the same thing. It's up to us who didn't grow up in that particular era but have ties to that music and those genres to pass it on to the youth. um, and the positive side of it, right? I think a lot of times we find that our youth are into, the hard stuff. If I could ask someone who's 15, 16 years old now about a Tribe Called Quest, and they're like, I don't really know. But if I ask them about
Right.
NWA, I bet you they know NWA, which is very interesting.
Because of the movie, right? Yeah,
Very,
yeah, yeah.
very
You're right. You're right.
interesting.
You're right.
Um, it's because of the movie, but it's also because some of the songs that they put out, and you know, uh, but yeah, I think for this particular album, uh, the storytelling aspect is huge, and it has to be something that we continue to plug into our youth, especially youth that are into music, and then highlight the ability to fuse jazz, or not even jazz, but the ability to fuse two genres and two types of music to create a masterpiece. And that's what I see whenever I listen to this. I'm like, yo, this is incredible. So yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts or comments before we check out?
Nah, man, I'm just, I do this, I feel like, almost every episode, but I just thank you for being my co-host and rocking with me. It's been a challenging couple of
Absolutely, man.
weeks, but this always is the highlight of my week. Um, so I'm grateful. Um, I'm never gonna read lyrics again from now on. I'm just gonna email you the lyrics and you can rap them. But but other than that, I need this, and I just really really appreciate you for rocking with me and us having these conversations, because we talk about culture a lot, and that's a part of it. But also, this is healing. This is healing for us. I feel like it's healing for me.
Right.
So super appreciative about that.
Absolutely, man. Like initially, like listening to the album and prepping for this, I felt like I didn't have anything. I was like, I don't have anything to talk about. But again, once we just get in our vibe and space, it flows, man. It flows, and I'm grateful, like you said, grateful for the new revelations. Um, and I guess the last thing I want to say is that from our last Clubhouse recording, we talked about Kwanzaa. We talked about Kwanzaa in the last episode also. That I've decided to celebrate Kwanzaa moving forward. This is my first year celebrating it. I bought a Kinara set, which is the candle holder and 7 candles. And yeah, I'm gonna make the effort, and I'm gonna find a way to kind of personalize it for me. Again, being Haitian American, I want to honor the Black experience, but I also want to honor my individual culture. So looking forward to whenever we get back and talk about it, put it out there, man. Put it out there.
Yeah, I love that because I actually, after our episode and us talking about it, I got invited to a Kwanzaa celebration that
Dope,
I'm
dope.
going to go
Are you
to.
gonna
I
go?
am going to go. I told I
All right,
RSVP'd, so
all right,
I will be there. I'm excited to learn, and like I was saying when we spoke about it, every day I'll try to learn a little, something more about it. But that's great to hear, man. I'm glad that from our conversations and from us being able to, you know, uh, share our perspectives around going our upbringings and learning about things that happen during the holidays and more specifically Kwanzaa. We've been able to uh, challenge ourselves, or not even challenge ourselves, been able to elevate ourselves to be able to learn about something new.
right,
And I love that,
right.
man. So
Yeah,
those are listening, those who are listening, um, I always like to leave with some encouragement. If you're not someone who celebrates Kwanzaa or celebrates any holiday, or not in the holidays, I'm not really that way. I'm very much so known as a Scrooge, or a Grinch, but my perspective changed when I had a conversation. I learned more about what these holidays and what everything represents. And you may find something. I'm not saying celebrate it, but just read up about it. Check out a Wikipedia or something, and you might find something in it that fits your lifestyle, fits you. So that's something I encourage, and I think could be helpful. So yeah,
right. Right. I just want to give a salute to Ty because I asked him a question, and his response kind of helped trigger me wanting to do it. And I asked him, why did he? I think I asked everyone in the room, clubhouse room, like, why do you think no one celebrates it? Like, we're aware of it, we learned about it, we have these episodes growing up from the '90s and TV shows. And his to paraphrase, it was kind of like who's gonna lead the charge to like say, all right, this is what we're doing now. And I was like, no one has to lead. In my mind, like, no one has to lead the charge, but if we all do our individual work, then it spreads and it becomes bigger. So I'm excited that you're going to have like a real tradition while I'm going to kind of create my own, and looking forward to kind of talking about it and seeing where it takes us and what we learn from each other. That's all I got. Thanks for rocking out, man. Appreciate
likewise,
you.
brother. Likewise.
And I'm not sure if we're gonna do are we gonna do a
I
clubhouse? I'm
think
not
we
sure.
should. We'll do it hopefully next week.
All
But yeah,
right.
there will be a clubhouse, so stay tuned to that. So that's another thing we should put out there. Sometimes we talk about doing a clubhouse, but we don't put it out right away. If you when you listen to our outro, if you go to clubhouse, you can follow our room. So even though we haven't put anything out yet, just follow the room, and you'll get a notification when we do. Because I know sometimes we'll say, hey, we're going to do one on this particular day, and we may or may not do that. That doesn't mean we're not going to do a clubhouse. It just means that maybe we had a schedule conflict or something came up. But if you follow our room on Clubhouse, you'll get a notification when we add the room, the new room. I don't know the terms, but you'll get a notification when we add the room
Right.
for the upcoming Clubhouse.
All right. Oh, till next time.
Peace
Peace.
out.